Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly ITNet Tech Update and happy holidays. We know that many of you are heading home this week to celebrate with family and friends, and some of us are planning to take a week off from work. And that's great, you deserve it after a hard year of working hard. But what if an emergency happens while you're gone and you find yourself without access to the internet, or worse, your company goes without internet? So today I'm going to be talking about some tips for when you need internet access quick. Hello, I'm Michael Kinnett, CEO and founder of Internal Networks, and every Friday at 1 p.m. on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and my personal LinkedIn, I go live to discuss the latest tech and cyberspace news that might affect you and your business. At the end of our live session, I'll also be answering questions from the audience. So if you have any tech or cybersecurity related questions, get them ready because I'll make sure to cover them at the end. But first off, the news. I've talked about this a couple of times. LastPass had a data breach. Back in August, they had another one earlier this year. They've had several in the last few years, and they just disclosed some additional information that the previous breach was worse than they had reported. The hackers, the criminals, were able to actually download some end users' encrypted password vaults. So what that means is that they have all of the passwords downloaded on the criminals' computers. However, those password vaults are protected with 256-bit AES encryption, which is pretty high-end encryption. And so that encryption key for each password vault is based on that user's master password. So the passwords should be secure for now. That's a big should be, right? That's assuming that there's no vulnerability in the encryption or anything else that LastPass has in place. Many security professionals are actually recommending changing any passwords that you had stored in LastPass as a precaution. I'm not quite sure I would go as far as saying change all your passwords, but I would recommend changing any banking or other critical logins if you are using LastPass, just to be safe in case they do find a way to break that encryption. So moving on to our topic, temporary internet access for work. I'm going to be going over several different options for what to do if your internet fails and you don't have internet. And some of them you can do. A lot of these really you kind of need to think about and plan ahead for. But there are some options that I'll talk about that can be done in a pinch if you haven't prepared ahead of time. So first, one of the options is ask your neighbors. Right? That's the old-fashioned way. Just earlier this week, we were making gingerbread houses for my daughter's birthday party, and we make this special homemade frosting that helps glue everything together, and we were running short with all of our friends, and we didn't have enough eggs, so we went next door and said, hey, can we borrow an egg and some powdered sugar so we can finish making some more of this? And it worked great, right? You can do the same thing if you're without internet, right? You can always ask your neighbor and say, hey, my internet's down, is there any way I can connect to your Wi-Fi? If your company's without internet, maybe you can collaborate with another business in there. Maybe even set up a reciprocal arrangement, right? To say, hey, if your internet goes down, you could connect to our guest Wi-Fi. And if ours goes down, is it okay if we connect to yours and have an arrangement ahead of time? I do want to point out, right, if you both have the same internet provider, that probably isn't going to help. But if you're coordinating ahead of time, maybe you can have different connections, different internet providers. I also want to point out, if you're going to do this for your business, make sure that you have your network set up securely so that you aren't giving access to all of your systems when they connect. Make sure you have a dedicated network that they can connect to for that share. Another option is, and this requires a little bit of planning ahead, you can buy a 5G router. If you want to keep your employees and all your staff in the office online, if your primary internet goes out, then 5G router backup solution might be right for you. Basically how it works is if your primary internet connection fails, your router then fails over to that 5G router connection to provide internet. Similar to this, you can buy a backup internet line. Basic broadband connections can cost as low as, I would say, in Nevada, usually probably around $40 for a lower speed. You might be able to negotiate cheaper than that. So why not buy one of those and use it as a backup, as a secondary internet line? It might not be as fast as your main connection, but hopefully you rarely need to use it, and it will get you by in an emergency. The extra cost is fairly low compared to being completely down for hours, or even I've seen businesses be offline for a day or two if fiber lines or that are cut by construction. You can look at it as kind of insurance for your business. It works very similar to the 5G backup option, where your router would just automatically fail over to that slower backup connection when needed. Another good option is to use a mobile connection. Mobile broadband connections are available from pretty much every cellular network provider. You can either buy a small USB dongle, which plugs into your computer. They have small hotspots that you can buy, or you can just use the hotspot on your phone, and by enabling that and then allowing you to connect to that hotspot to get you by while your main internet's being fixed. Now, there are limitations on that. Your mobile connection probably won't be as fast as your fixed line broadband that's at your office or at your house, and coverage varies vastly. You could have really fast speed at one location and really poor speed at another because of the signal strength. But if you're in a strong signal area, it can be an effective temporary solution for you. Another option, and this is probably not for most of us, but you can have a backup office. When I came across this, I thought, like, wow, like this is definitely more for bigger corporations. But some larger companies, like banks and insurance firms, they maintain emergency premises that they can decamp to in the event of problems, right? If a building needs to get evacuated because of a gas leak or a police, emergency or something like that, and you can't function there, then you can go to that offsite location to still function with internet and all services needed. Now, like I said, for most smaller firms, providing such facilities may not work, but you could plan on options like Regus, Business World Membership, to give you an alternative place to work from in an emergency. Or you could just have things set up to where you can send your staff and work from home, use their home internet, and still have access to their systems. If you have any questions on any of these options, or are considering implementing any of these in your business, then have some questions, reach out to us. I'd love to answer any questions and see if that's something that we can help you to prepare for in the event that your internet does go out. I do want to put a little pitch in for our upcoming webinar. Next month's webinar, we're going to be discussing improving workplace efficiency through IT documentation. The impact of poor network documentation can result in unplanned downtime, operational and performance deficiencies, compromised relationships, and ultimately it can lead to revenue loss, right? If you're having issues and your documentation is outdated and it's hard to track down different connections and devices, et cetera, warranty information, contact information for your vendors, it wastes a lot of time and can lead to unnecessary issues. Comprehensive and transparent documentation is crucial to ensure optimal business performance. And we're going to be going over different ways of documenting and kind of how it can help your business in those areas. I'll make sure that we have a registration link in the comments below. The webinar is going to be Thursday, January 26th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So plenty of time and a little over a month away. But we're looking forward to going over that with each of you. Let me go to my comments here and see if there's any questions from the audience. I wouldn't be surprised if most people are already checked out and either traveling or preparing to travel and not really thinking too much about IT or work or other things. So I don't see any questions coming in, but as always, if you have any questions, you can always direct message me, or you can contact us through our website at ITNet.works. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful weekend. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. Hope you have a wonderful time with family and friends, and we'll see you next week.